Section 11. Notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, August 9, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen Room, Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass. To hear and act upon the application of 2 Rock Development, LLC, 205 School Street, Framingham, Mass. The applications for the farmland and open space planned residential development, phosphid plan for 649 Main Street. Property identified on Bolton's Assessor's Map 2 is parcel 12, located in Bolton's residential zoning district. The proposed development consists of a 5-lot subdivision. Read the second part too?
Yeah.
And contemporaneously, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 9, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen Room of the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass. to hear and act upon the application of 2 Rock Development, LLC, 205 School Street, Framingham, Mass. The application is for a common driveway special permit for 649 Main Street, property identified on Bolton's Assessor's Map 2.0 as parcel 12, located in Bolton's residential zoning district. The proposed development consists of a 5-lot subdivision. I was not here for the informal session that we did maybe a month ago or so. So for my benefit, if you don't mind, give me a little bit of a background primer as you walk through this.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that segue. My name is Greg Royce. This is a good place to stand. My name is Greg Royce with Duchamp Dillis. I'm also here with the applicants, Paul are with us as well.
Hello.
And I will give you a brief history. The site is approximately 30 acres. Now I'm conscious of the fact that no one behind me can see, so I apologize for the best I can. The site's a 30-acre parcel with frontage on Main Street. And when you do the zoning geometry, you discover that you have enough frontage, and clearly enough area, but enough frontage to do 5 A&R lots by right. So the first analysis we did in this process when we were meeting with Paul and Lynn was to develop a concept plan that would develop conventional lots, some backland and a conventional to comply with zoning, which would divide the whole 30 acres into 5 lots. And still use a common driveway to access those parcels. There's a couple of disadvantages to this. One of the design goals with the applicant would be to preserve the existing house and barn. There's some historical value there, there's some family value there. And that was the significant drawback to this plan. Cutting the land up in this manner would mean we'd have to raise those structures and redevelop them with 5 new structures.
For the benefit of everybody else, show me the 2 structures.
This is the existing barn, and this is the existing house right there. So, lot lines be going through, the common driveway would have to be, would go through there, and you'd sort of be recreating the wheel with respect to the property. Very early in the process, although this is not a major residential, it has the area, but it does not have a lot. We're not proposing the number of lots that would require us to do a major residential filing. We look to a phosphid concept as a sort of like a voluntary phosphid here, I guess for lack of to coin a new phrase maybe in town, where we would look to resolve those issues, primarily the issue of saving the structures, but still getting the 5 lots out of the land. So we created a concept that would meet the phosphid requirements with the creation of 4 new lots in the back for 4 new houses, but would also create a conventional lot for the existing structures.
So no new houses on lot 1?
No new houses on lot 1.
Existing.
Right. We'll be saving those structures and putting them on their own conforming lot and creating 4 additional lots for 4 new houses in the back. Of course, another advantage to the phosphid would be the creation of open space. So this plan would preserve approximately 17 acres, a little bit over 17 acres of open space land, which is a benefit. We wouldn't be carving that up and putting it on private lots. And it allows what we think is better land stewardship, because we're sort of putting this in we're doing the development that is, preserving historically significant and structures that are significant to the family.
Driveway and impervious area and all that stuff for the existing improvements pretty much stays as it is?
Yes.
For the existing?
For the existing house,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
The driveway is sort of a circular type driveway that kind of comes in
And
there.
that stays?
That would stay, right. So we'd still be accessing this through a common driveway, which, as you read, we're here for both a phosphorus special permit and a common driveway special permit. But instead of accessing all 5 of the new lots like we were under the traditional, we'd only be accessing 4 of the lots in the back. And this would stay, as you just mentioned, would stay with the same access and circulation program that exists now. So we developed the plan that you see here. It's also in your, you have the small reduced sizes there. And I'll just talk you through this, go over how we developed the plan. There's some pretty significant specimen trees down in this area, which we show in there. So we've sort of jogged this around those trees to try and preserve that. And we come across here, there's a bordering vegetated wetland that cuts through the site with an existing crossing cart path, which is shown in brown here, kind of goes out to the back. This area here is a field that Paul maintains as pumpkins, right, Paul?
Yeah.
So this is a pumpkin patch back here. You might see that if you're driving quick. There's a pumpkin patch, and that's sort of right behind the, maybe 50 to 75 feet behind the barn. There's a field like right in there that's a pumpkin patch field. The driveway would come in, we cross the wetland with a new open bottom type crossing, and then we go up to the ultimate terminus, which would be the fire department turnaround 40 by 30, a standard standard Bolton fire turnout, where the common driveway would end, and then we diverge to the individual driveways. All the standard details that are required, we've put in here, like the staging area that's required by regulations, with the 50-foot pavement width. Every 300 feet, I believe, we have the additional turnouts to widen the driveway to 20 feet so that we can have the turnouts in there. The sites would all have their own, just like every other lot in Bolton, will all have their own on-site wells and septics. So these are shown in these areas here. The other one I can't reach in the back. And then, in accordance with the regulations and also the stormwater management policy, which we sort of get wrapped into by our wetlands filing, we've designed the drainage in accordance with the stormwater management policy. So we have 2 primary stormwater management areas, a small one in this area, which sort of takes the front part of the site, and then a larger one here, which takes the balance of the pavement in the back. We're proposing a open drainage concept, so there will be a swale system constructed, draining the pavement down into the stormwater management areas on both of those basins. And that's all been designed in accordance with the stormwater management policy. We've actually, I'll touch on this in a bit, we've gone back and forth with one iteration with Fred, your consultant, he's here, so we can talk about that a little bit later. So we've done a few tweaks to the plan to accommodate that, and I think you have that latest revision. Went through that iteration a week or 2 ago. I guess I just also do want to point out that we are also concurrently filing with the Conservation Commission. We had an opening hearing last week, and they did a site walk yesterday, and that went well. They have continued that hearing until next week, so we're sort of in a nice situation to go over before both boards at the same time. And just as a just for your benefit, we've developed the on-site septic plans to a point we're probably about a week away from filing with the Board of Health for those. So we're sort of, the permitting is advancing. I think at this point, I'll just acknowledge Fred's latest review letter, which I'm happy to go through point by point, but most of them you're going to notice it say addressed. Fred's kind enough to go through and sit with us after he's had a chance to review the plans, and we kind of go over those red lines, and from those we developed a response letter which we transmitted to your board. And you know, most of the items from his initial review have been addressed. There's a few comments that were made. Most of them are pretty, I mean, I don't want to speak for Fred, but in my opinion, most of them are pretty minor. The only one I did want to say is that one of his comments, which is on the last page, page 5, and this is Fred's August 8th letter, page 5, number 4, where it says soil testing must be performed in the area of infiltration ponds. That's absolutely true, and we are actually needing to go back out there and do some additional fill-in holes for the septic, which we're going to be doing next week, so that's on the schedule. Just wanted to kind of update that. We're going to do the testing at the same time. But we've designed those in a way where we're not really cutting much in those basins. We're just using the existing grade and berming up around the back. So we've we've designed those in a conservative manner from our standpoint. I think that's all for my initial presentation. I'm really interested to hear if there's any questions from you folks, and if I didn't do an adequate job giving you the history, I'm happy to fill in the gaps where I can.
No, I think you did a good job. For me, it's trees and traffic, right? So traffic, there's not much you can do, in my opinion. If we had, it's similar to another subdivision we looked at on Main Street recently, if we had a couple of curb cuts here, that'd be a disaster. Yeah, I think this is pretty cool how you have it here.
Yeah.
Sight lines will obviously be important. I'd love to hear about what research you've done there. And from a tree standpoint, it's two things, right? A very strong desire not to do a lot of disturbance, any if possible. Certainly no clear cutting, where the beginning of the site meets the frontage road, where it meets Main Street.
Yeah, or up in there. Yeah.
And then, I'll tell you, you'll certainly appreciate this, talking about my house and Golden Run. It's always tough in our town or in any, when you've got a subdivision and you've got houses behind others.
Mm-hmm.
Here you've got a line of 3, and I think it can work. And selfishly, it works at my house. We've got a very thoughtful design where the back of my lot, before a house that's right behind mine, but a driveway kind of adjacent and coming back to service it. A lot of thought was put in by the developer of my house when it was built to do a lot of plantings there and to disturb as little as possible. You still know you have a neighbor behind you. It's always best to not have it behind you and have it kind of staggered to the best of the ability. Yep. When you've got 3 in a line there, I think it's really sensitive. So I would want to feel comfortable that you're keeping as much as you can septic concerns, notwithstanding obviously, but keeping as much as you can in terms of a barrier among those 3 houses. And then again, being on the main road, keeping as much of a undisturbance between that lot 1, your common driveway, and the Main Street.
Yeah.
Obviously, the thing you got to balance is how do sight lines look, right? Like Annie Moore and Long Hill. Is there something that has to come down because it's just this is dangerous and people are flying down the hill? Yep. That's my big picture. I think everything else makes sense to me.
If I can address a few of those things, we did look at sight lines. I think they're on the plan. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but this is not as big of a deal this way.
Yep.
This way, you can see past the dry hydrant, which is kind of like right over here.
Okay.
So, I think they're on there. I think it does, there's a few small trees in the right of way here that we would need to take. And I think we laid those on the plan as well.
Why? For sight lines or for other reasons? Okay.
They're not big, they're kind of, I don't want to call them saplings either, but I think we're in the less than the 10-inch diameter range. There's a dead one too that would come out. I think there was 4 or 6 in there.
They're in front of the wall too, Greg.
In front of the wall, they're in the road right away, yeah. The big specimen tree, there's some really big like, are they maples? or-
They're maple.
Yeah, the bunch of maples.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to take a few of them, we just can't.
Looks like
Like
two.
the road,
It looks
yeah.
like you've got two to be removed, but the
Yeah.
majority of them, he's cutting out brush removal in the front, but only 2 trees, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Only
Yeah.
2 trees that are kind of within that front area that could be inhibiting
Yep,
the sight distance. All of these trees are remaining.
yep.
And I know sometimes we look for waivers to not have to mark all those trees. It sounds like on this one, you are marking a lot of those.
We
trees.
did,
That's awesome.
we went out and located them, because they're really nice trees. I mean, they're nice.
But yeah, it's obviously, yeah, it has appeal to end unit buyers.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't
if I
get
could
to you
just
living there.
speak for 1 second.
Please.
So in the front, when I talked to Brandon, when he was coming up with the design, I envisioned, there's a stone wall, a drywall in the front of there, real tight rock. I envision curving the wall, and I actually want the wall curved into the
Yep.
mouth there.
Yep,
Expose the existing wall there. It's very wooded, in that little area there. Long-term goal, Lynn and I will live in that house.
We'll live in
Okay.
the original house.
And that's why, we're taking as much interest as,
That's awesome.
we want to look out our backyard and not really see people living out there.
Yeah.
So with the stone wall, because obviously you're gonna have to remove some of the wall from where the driveway will be, so you'll take
bring it
the
in.
existing stones you're gonna remove and allow it to go in.
Right.
So all of the stones will
So-
Stay on
stones will
site.
stay on site.
Okay.
Yeah,
we made sure we did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we talked to Brandon,
Yeah.
so just picture this, I envision looking out my backyard eventually, right, this driveway, with a white PVC fence, just some of it, just a nice country
Yep.
fence going across it, and then I asked Brandon about illumination, we lost that bag, he said you can't light up a driveway, so the only thing I wanted was, I just wanted this nice looking stone wall going into there, that's.
Yeah, oh yeah, we have that captured, we have roundings on
Yeah.
there. Where
And then just one more thing, I don't know if this is the time.
Yeah.
That's-
John Powers was a selectman in the town of Bolton for a period of time. And I didn't know with a common driveway, and Lynn makes a good point on something else, but if you could name it John E. Powers Way, just with 4 houses. But, then people would say, well, I'm gonna drive up there, it's really a common driveway, so you have a privacy issue, I would think.
I think you could add an additional sign that says private way.
Private way,
So that
yeah.
people know that.
Okay. So just a thought,
Yeah,
Isn't it like a red street sign or something? It's like not green or something?
They're
I saw-
typically green and Bolton,
Oh,
like if you look at Sunset Ray.
But yeah, there was like a little private way or something. I remember there being something different.
Just say private way at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I can just make one comment, as you had made a comment about keeping, as much as, that's obviously what we want. We love the property, and with us also moving there, we want to keep as much as possible. We're not doing any clear cutting,
Great.
there's nothing going to be happening, so.
It's especially important on this road, because
Oh,
you don't wanna clear, you wanna create some
Right.
seclusion. The end unit buyers will like that, the future buyers will like
Like you
it.
mentioned, the middle house there, if it's at all possible to
This one?
keep, yes, any of the existing vegetation in,
in here?
between both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have your
Yeah,
septic
yeah, yeah.
systems and
It's
you need
hard.
to be
I know
able
that.
to.
It's just challenging.
So,
Yeah, it's hard.
and if you can't, then think of some sort of landscaping thing
Yeah, I mean, you could
potentially that
plant
maybe
something
could.
there, you could plant some evergreens or something. I mean,
Something
we
to
did-
provide a
we did-
buffer,
we-
but-
We have kind of, just to give you an idea of how we laid this out, as you approach each house, you come up, this is the front, this is the back, so it's sort of,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
face, so you come in, you see the house, and then you come inside the garage. Same thing here.
So none of them are
back.
facing each other.
Right, well, they
Yeah.
face each other, but the backyards are private, so you
That-
come in,
yeah,
and-
yeah.
and the same thing here, backyard, you kind of have that. So we have all these we've established these corridors where
No, that's good.
The biggest one for me is where it's written, lot 3, right there, where that text is.
Yeah.
If you have to cut because of the septic and what have you,
That we don't
that's
necessarily,
great.
I mean,
I think
it's
you
more of a-
need to keep that,
yeah.
to the best of your ability, and if you have to cut, then.
And of course, we can show anything, but sort of it's, after it's sold, it's sort of.
Oh,
Well,
I
it looks-
know,
It
I
looks like
know, I
actually,
know.
right where you have the lot 3, you're tying into existing.
Yeah, we do,
contours.
yeah.
So potentially, if that whole area could,
Yeah, I think you could
Stay.
save some trees there.
you
yeah.
know,
But I'll tell you, the new owners, you say, who have the right to cut, they would
Probably
do
don't
it.
know.
They're looking out their back window,
Right.
and they want as
Right.
much of a, the privacy factor as they
Yeah.
can.
So when we, if I can just,
Yeah.
when we walked through conservation yesterday, I think Brian the Brian
Yeah,
and
plant
the
road.
conservation agent. We walked along that tan path.
Yep.
And when I talked to Brian, he's like, wow, you know, I said, you know, our goal is to be able to take a walk down that path, you know, when these houses are built.
Yep.
And he said, okay, so you want to be the steward of the property that remains. You know, I have my garden there, I have my meadow, and then the woods. There's 17 acres of woods that remain there. You know, so we envisioned that path staying, you know, not that it's open as a state park, but, you know, it's, you
Yep.
can
That's
still
nice.
walk down there.
That's nice, that's nice.
I think you're gonna have to relocate some of it though, because you've got a
Because the
septic
septic,
system.
yeah, we looked
and then
at
you've
that.
got, you know,
Yeah.
you got a couple of
Yeah.
things going there, which doesn't mean you can't relocate.
No.
I'm just,
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
So about 30 acres in total, 13 developed upon, 17 open space?
roughly,
Okay.
yeah.
Greg, would it be possible to add like a limited work line? That
oh, I
would
think
give
he's got
more-
it, he's got a limited work line, oh,
Yeah.
is it-
In terms of clearing though, I don't think.
Oh,
'cause you
a
guys
clearing
have-
line.
Well,
Yeah,
we do, it's just, I think what you're saying is revise it, and we have an ultimate limit clearing.
Yeah, because you've noted it, proposed limited clearing, and right now it's anything
just-
within that limited work
Yeah.
line can be cleared.
I didn't
So
show
maybe we
anything.
could
in
be
it.
a little more restrictive on that.
Yeah,
It would be great if we could,
Just because the wetlands there are so significant too, like, it would just be really
mm-hmm,
good to make that clear.
mm-hmm.
Mr. Hamway, what do you think? Takeaways, where they are now, any concerns?
As Greg said, we had met, they had, what you have in front of me was the second revised design. So we had met it, I reviewed the first one, gone up with the stormwater management report. We sat down together, went over, like you said, red line drawings that I had marked up, and they resulted in the letter they wrote back. All the comments were there and addressed, and then I wrote a letter in response to it.
Yep.
As he said, a majority of them are taken care of. A few things came up between those two dates, and everything is there. Everything that I've mentioned, they already know about.
Okay.
So it's already been agreed that they will
Okay.
change it, revise, whatever, look
Yeah.
at it. So they know, even before I wrote the letter, I talked to them again by phone and went over their, the comments. So if you look at, excuse me, my letter, those, as you see, a lot of them are acceptable, what I use is acceptable, and there are some that need to be modified. They also were going through conservation, so they have some modifications they thought through that process, and would have another set of plans
Okay.
that you'd be submitting at whatever point, right?
Yeah, there'd be one more problem, final
Okay.
set that would address any comments that you folks have with that.
I do,
Yeah.
I have a fair amount.
Go ahead.
I'll
Go
wait till
ahead.
you guys all go first if you want.
Chief, what do you think? Any major concerns or thoughts?
It looks pretty good, just a few questions I had, if that's okay.
Sure, please.
Greg, what would be the width of the, from inside edge to inside edge of the guardrail? Because over the, would that be the 12 feet plus the 2 feet on either side?
Yeah, I gotta look at the
It's probably
detail.
closer to a foot. Well, the curb itself is a foot, right? No, it's no curb.
There's
So
no
it's gonna
curb,
be
yeah.
about a foot, right?
Yeah,
12
it's-
feet plus a foot on each
Yeah,
side.
it's probably 14 or
Yeah.
16 feet, I can't remember what it is.
Thank you.
Did I measure it on there?
I believe it's only a foot in, Greg, the face of the guardrail.
Yeah, I didn't mention it. Yeah, you're in the 14 to 15 foot range.
Sounds good.
Just so you want to make sure it's wide enough so that a large vehicle like a fire truck would be able to,
Yeah.
coming off that corner with the back wheels kind of tracking in a little bit, would still be able to get by the guardrail.
Yeah,
And somewhere, I don't remember where it was, but somewhere on the plan, I saw a note that said that the driveways going from the common drive to the individual houses, that those single house driveway sections would be only a 10-foot paved width. Is that correct? Or did I just read that?
I don't know.
I believe it's on there, Greg.
If that's the case,
So
it'd be,
go 10 feet
Right.
on those, yeah.
it'd be really nice if they could be, you know, the 12 foot, just, again, for easier access coming in or out with the large
I think
vehicle.
that's it, yeah.
And you got a couple of pull-offs there, I can see, but then you got the big turnaround in the back.
Right. Yeah, so that would be the primary fire turnout, and then
Okay, yeah.
Speaking on the turnouts, does it make sense to put one on the east side of the driveway, just east of the wetland crossing? Kind of where the path comes down, yeah, right down in that general area? Because if you got people coming, coming out from the houses and somebody coming in, the sight lines there,
It's not much, I mean, it's not like it's traffic, I mean, that.
well, you're gonna have people, coming and going, and, there's not a good, if somebody is just past the last turnout on the incoming back path, and,
Well, you gotta be
people on the
careful,
other
there's a
direction.
swale right
Well,
all along there.
Yeah, he's an engineer, he can fix
So,
that.
so you're saying they push,
Yeah, no.
They
Push it
just
out.
kind of push it. Yeah, I mean.
If not you, then Brandon, so.
Yeah.
Not to make your life difficult, but maybe it'll make it easier. The one on the,
This one?
yeah, trade that one out
For, on
for
this side.
one right there, exactly.
Well, then your spacing wouldn't comply.
Too far of a space.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So they're kind of spaced where you need them for.
Okay, I'm thinking sight lines and not spacing.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking where
we
you've
look at
got
that too.
that, that fairly sharp turn, you don't have any sight lines, so you can,
Yeah, I don't know, at sightline, I don't think would be an issue. I think you'd see around there, I mean, there'll be some, well, we gotta walk the vegetation back there a little bit, but, I mean, we can look at it.
I do like having them on the west side of the driveway.
which is where they are now.
Yeah.
You like having
You like
the
having-
bullets on the west side, okay.
So what was the final outcome of the water supply for the fire?
So so early on, we came, part of the discussion was to look at, there's really, my understanding, and again, I wasn't part of that conversation either, but there's really three options. There's putting a cistern in there. There's the existing fire hole's right about there, it's about 300 feet down with a dry hydrant. They would be putting another suction line in there and running it over.
Crossing the road.
That, we took some grades there, that I just don't think is really feasible from a construction standpoint. I mean, you'd be better than 15 feet deep through
I'd rather not, yeah.
it's pretty,
Yes, I'm sure
it's pretty
you
low.
would. Yep.
It's pretty, the water surface is a lot lower than I envisioned it. So we looked at that, and it doesn't really seem that feasible. So the third option being sprinkling the buildings. So
Anything over 1,000 feet.
anything over 1,000 feet, which I think they all are,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So I think we're 300 plus greater than 700 to this guy. So we're 1,000 feet better than those.
So that's tied into the private well?
That's a
Yeah,
full suppressed house. It's suppression.
yeah. We would either, I'm not a.
Is there a tank?
A lot of times we
holding
put a tank in there.
There would be a storage tank,
Yes.
A lot of money, but that's the only way to really do it?
Either that or putting a cistern in, but believe it or not, it's
That's
probably,
more?
it's probably more.
Okay.
Where are the private wells gonna be?
We have, let's see, oh, I can't find this one. There's one right there, one right there, one right there, and one right there.
Okay, so are they shown on this plan?
I don't know. I don't know that plan in front of me.
Who's behind you? Powder Hill? Or is there land is there a lot
No,
of?
There's a lot, there used to be another 24 acres that went with this piece. So it's the gas line,
Yep.
24 acres, and then powder.
So you butt up against the gas line? It goes that far back?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Does that path go to the gas line?
That
does,
walking
yep,
trail does.
yep.
There's a few that do. There's one right back here that goes there too.
Around here.
Yeah, no, I think. If you are you gonna be revising these? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we have a few cleanups to do for,
Okay, if you can just show the wells on the plan, they're not shown. I think, do you want me to go through?
Can I just make one comment, going back to the trees along Main Street? Are any of those within the red right-of-way, Greg?
yeah.
Okay, so just keep in mind, you're gonna need to go through a shaded tree hearing with Mark Case.
So do we need to do that where it's not a scenic road?
You do.
Even in a.
Because it's in the right of
Just because
way?
it's a shaded tree and it's in the right-of-way, you do still need to go through that.
Great.
It's not a
It's a
scenic
scenic
road
road.
hearing, it's not a scenic road hearing with planning, it's just Mark Case, and I believe he just
Oh.
meets you out there at the site.
Oh, okay, not a scenic road, there's a distinction.
But it may need to be advertised and all of that, so.
And you're only
They're not
removing
really-
two trees.
They're not
within
really
the
shade
right-of-way.
trees. Is there a definition of what a shade tree is? It's not really.
Anything, I think it's 1.5 inch diameter or
Oh, well, we
over,
probably
so,
need that.
yeah.
That's poison ivy.
Yeah, it's state law.
You're only removing two then, right?
I think so.
I even think, I didn't see them in the way, because the wall itself is 10 feet back from the pavement.
At least.
At least. And you only have to sit that 10 feet back. I didn't see it to the east at all. West,
I measured,
either way. I didn't see the trees in the way at all.
Okay. We measured them, we thought they were.
Okay.
Maybe we can just get by with them, we can relook at, but.
Yeah, I'd look at it first once
Yeah.
again, but I didn't see them at all in the way.
You had other things.
So, just one more thing on the fire thing, sorry. So assuming that the chief here fine with the personal sprinkler system, that trumps all, does the bylaw say that, if you're out 1,000 feet, that as long as there's a personal system, you're okay, or is that kind of implied?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
don't give details in terms of the design.
okay.
I apologize, so I had a chance to review your original stormwater report,
Okay.
which was dated June 8th.
Yeah, not much changed.
I
so.
know you have one that's August 1st, and I
Yeah.
know Fred has addressed a bunch of these things, so I was just gonna go through my comments quickly, and if they've already been addressed, you can just let me know.
Okay.
I know at least one or two of them have been just based on our discussions.
Okay.
The first one I just wanted, you guys have noted that this is new development, which is correct, but in your summary, you say you're meeting it to the maximum extent practicable.
Okay.
So on the 1.2, I would just change that to say you're meeting new development, because you're meeting the standards.
Yep.
And you should take credit for that. These are in no particular order at all, they're just random that I was able to look at it. In your HydroCAD calcs, when you are analyzing your different land type areas, you have wetlands, and they're not taken out. I think you're using them as a grass or something, and they really should be with a CN of 98. And that's gonna be for existing and proposed, but they're surface water body.
Okay.
So both existing and proposed, and I don't think it's gonna change necessarily your calculations that much, but where you are actually replicating wetlands, that would then now be a proposed 98. So that may change your CN a little bit for your proposed watershed areas.
Okay. I don't usually do it that way.
How do you usually?
I usually just treat it as whatever the underlying, because usually you have a Class D soil there, so I would just use the C. If it's wooded wetland, I'd use a Class D wood.
But for certain portions of the time, it's wet, and so it's can be considered as water, so,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know,
if you
like
wanna,
say, I don't know if it'll make a big difference.
it may not, it may
It's
not.
kind of, you do it on the pre-developed and the post.
Correct, so that's why it may not,
Yeah.
but you do have some wetland replication where you're increasing.
Yeah, no, I hear
So
that.
that was just a
Okay.
thought. I think one of these you've already addressed, for the grass channel in your TSS calculation, you were claimed 50%.
Yeah,
But I think in your revised one, you took it out.
We did,
Because you
yeah.
know that can't be done.
Yeah, which, if I can just use this opportunity to express my disdain for that regulation. All right. I digress.
The other question, if you can provide a detail of the infiltration basin, that would be very helpful.
Okay,
'cause
like a
it's not-
cross-section? or-
Yeah, a simple cross-section would be great. And then since I'm assuming when you go out to do the test pits, you'll be establishing seasonal high groundwater?
Yep,
So then we can know that we have 2 feet of separation?
yep.
All right.
That's,
That brings up that one. The one thing is, they require 50 feet of separation for infiltration basins to surface waters, and that includes wetlands. Your pond one is fine, but your pond two, you should look
Yeah.
at, especially with your wetland replication area. That may need to be retweaked a little
Okay.
bit. In your recharge of water quality calcs, and it looks like you revised them a little
We did,
because
yeah.
there were some,
yeah,
I couldn't quite follow them, there were some different elevations shown.
yeah, I think we had sort of a bogus sheet in there.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll
okay,
update that.
okay. And the only thing I was gonna just double check is with your recharge calc, since you aren't treating 100% of the impervious area, are you using a capture area adjustment?
I believe so, but I'll have to check it.
Okay, by the way, I think your your volumes are well meeting it. So
Yeah, I think,
even when you do, it's just to demonstrate it. So, I mean, I saw your proposed volumes, it looks
Right.
like you're not gonna have an issue
No.
meeting your water quality or your recharge.
Right.
But just, I would show you need to meet this amount, but you're well over that.
Yep.
Just as a clarification, in your summary, you had noted, so you are gonna be disturbing over an acre? And you're gonna need a NIPD's permit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You noted that you're including a SWIP, which you're not. You're
Oh,
including a
so
long-term
that's-
pollution prevention plan.
Yeah,
So-
so we will be doing this, so I think we probably in the checklist checked the, we'll do it.
Yeah, and I think the checklist is fine. I would just,
Summary, okay.
I'd revise the summary to say you have a long-term pollution prevention plan submitted, but not a draft
Not-
SWIP,
not a
because
draft
that's
SWIP,
a much bigger document.
Right.
And just revise it, yeah, just take that whole thing out, and that
Gotcha.
would work.
Yeah, no, that's,
Um,
it's a problem with computers.
I know, I've been there, done that. Are you guys having to file, just as a curious question, are you guys having to file with MISA because of the certified vernal pool? Or are you guys outside of that?
I don't know, we're outside of that.
There are 3 vernal pools, but Conservation Commission said none of them were certified yet.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
think they were thinking about that. I
Well,
just
there's one that's certified, but it may be farther,
It was.
it was farther away, okay, so,
Oh, so
because it looked like,
was
Yeah.
a 4th then?
no, I only
Of the
saw
3,
one.
one of them is certified.
Well, I
They
think,
said.
yeah, I think there was only one that was certified, but it was pretty far
Away.
away.
I don't have the notes of intent with me. Did we file with East? Polygon?
that
Did we
way.
file with NISA?
It actually, may almost be associated with a little bit of that wetland, but it looked
I
like,
watched the conservation meeting and they said that the two that were in the area weren't certified.
okay. Okay, so the one that is certified is maybe outside the
Yeah, I
area.
think so.
Okay, just,
Yeah.
the only other thing, is to make sure, and I think you're outside of it, there's an interim wellhead protection from the public water.
From the cover?
Yes, from the, across the street.
Yep.
And the zone comes into your property, just on the,
Yep.
I would just double check that your infiltration basin's outside of it. I think it is, I don't think you're having an issue, but I couldn't tell when I checked it on GIS exactly where it
Yep.
was. And with the well locations, I just wanted you to verify that they're all 100 feet away from any infiltration basin. And this, I mean, I guess maybe this is, has Conservation Commission had an issue with you guys using hay bales and not straw wattles or compost filter tubes?
Good question. Most of the conservation commissions do. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think back to the
'cause, I
last
mean,
one, Bolton. I mean, they usually, if they do, they just condition it out.
I mean, it would be great if we could just swap the detail.
To go to a straw wattle.
Yeah, straw water, compost filter tube, whichever is easier, but the hay bales just, they have a tendency to bring in invasives and
Yeah.
they're much more disturbance. The straw walls are a lot less disturbance, they're easier to install.
Yeah.
I know in Century Mill Estates, we've switched. They
Yeah,
were
you don't
in
see any
hay
hay
bales,
bales. huh?
No, and so
doing the
if
straw.
the hay bales aren't the best.
Yeah.
So if we could just swap that
Straw
detail
wattle.
and use the straw wattle with a silt fence, that would be great. And that was it.
None of that went over my head.
We could, 2 of us could probably do this all night.
It was cool.
I actually have a question for Erica. So walkways only come into play for a subdivision, right? So this isn't
Correct,
a,
under the, well, yeah, subdivision,
but
rules
because
and
it's
regs, but this isn't
phosphorus,
a road, this is a common driveway.
right? Well, I just didn't know if we could, if we wanted some meandering
You could certainly, do you
in
mean
the
like?
front. Well, so I just didn't know, like, in subdivisions, we require walkways and usually we repurpose it somehow. Yeah, but I know it's your house there, you know.
This is a special permit, so that's something you could negotiate.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it made sense to have some type of, if we wanted a piece of
I think
walkway.
it's something worth talking about, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's,
I think
the
it-
slope on the half driveway that goes way down. You know, if you said extending the sidewalk on the town hall side, down the street.
right, exactly.
So in front of ours, and then, you know, when you get to the half circle driveway, that's in front of the house, that grade goes like straight off of 117. And then,
Well, there's a sidewalk right across the street. There's a
Right.
sidewalk, there's a sidewalk here. Were you talking through the development?
Well, I'm just saying, I know that typically in subdivisions there's a walkway requirement, and sometimes residents, or, you know, the developers don't want to actually do it within, so we repurpose it to be outside somewhere, or to put it towards some mobility somewhere else. So that's why I just bring that up.
Did you say there is a sidewalk on Main Street?
On the parsonage side, yeah.
On that side?
Yeah, on the opposite.
South.
It runs right down through and they would connect
Yeah,
right over to the.
So that's in the right of way, right? So that's
Yeah,
town land?
yeah.
So I'm just saying, I don't know what the condition of that particular walkway is, but I know that some of them further along were off.
Yeah.
If there is a way to, improve some of that walkway, or, I mean, sometimes we, ask for what, like a
A
payment.
fee in lieu.
A fee in lieu of a walkway. So I know in subdivision is a requirement, but I don't know if this is phosphorus, if it,
It's not a requirement of phosphorus, but it is a special permit, and
Right.
that's something you can,
right? So if we can ask them to improve some walkway in place of it being there, or something like that, because I know
they are requesting a couple of waivers, so it could be something, to grant the waivers if we can add.
so we do have to waive a walkway then?
No, they
Oh,
have some
no.
other
Oh.
waivers related to the design of the common
Right.
driveway.
Okay.
Actually, Greg, I don't know, did we go through that yet?
We didn't.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring it up as a discussion point.
It's something we always look at on subdivisions, and the reality is residents of these communities typically never want
Right. Well,
mobility
so-
within the site.
Yeah, so Forbush, instead of doing it there, now we have a meandering walkway to the intersection.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't have it in there, maybe they improve the one across the street, I don't know.
A reasonable.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it
section.
because of the house in the barn, you wouldn't want it to
Right.
be it all there, but.
Well, I just, if it doesn't make sense at all, then fine, just bring it
I like
up.
the idea of sidewalks on Main Street, but
Yeah.
since there's already one on one side. I don't know.
Yeah,
And if it's not sidewalk, maybe it's just trail improvement, since we
Yeah.
do have that cart path, maybe.
Yeah, that's
some,
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe be working the trail so
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, because
That-
where it's
that's
being
fine, so-
disturbed,
yeah,
you can figure out how to make it still be a continuous path.
which
Yeah.
is something that you're
We did-
interested in as well. It's
Something for you guys to consider. I mean,
Yeah, I think we
we
have
would
to
be
consider.
flexible any way you want to do it, whether it's a payment in lieu of, whether it's a little bit of improving on your side, the other side, a path within the property that folks can use.
Just
So
generally,
I don't want to be adversarial. I think payment in lieu of wouldn't be the right term. because
yeah,
it's not
I
a
don't think so
requirement.
too. It's not a requirement, it's not a requirement, right?
So it's, we'll have.
Voluntary payment.
It would be a voluntary, let's call it spade a spade.
Yeah, I mean,
No, you're right, you're right. We'd have to, we'd have to.
I mean, just one thing we always look at is mobility.
Yeah.
And if that factor comes into play of improving this path to get back to the trails at the, like
So,
the trail at the.
That brings up a good point, actually. The Conservation Commission obviously has reviewed this, and Mr. Lawrence, Jeff Lawrence, is also, I think, on the Trails Committee. He has expressed, speaking as one member of the Trails
Yep.
Committee, that they don't see any interest in trails within that open space, within this proposed open
Yep.
space, because it doesn't connect to.
Doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't connect, and it's not contiguous with the town-owned piece. There's a chunk in there that cuts it off. And it's a nice trail system that goes from Town Hall all the way over
Yep.
to.
That's right down the street. I agree with you.
So I just thought, this was a good point to bring that up.
Yep.
But I don't know, we can
Is
consider.
there a way that you see that it could be connected, this path?
Because it goes out to it goes out to the pipeline,
Yeah,
and, the other town trail is up here, which goes down to the old town road.
Right.
And so the gentleman that owns the house, the property now, the land behind it was part of this parcel. He doesn't even really want you cutting down that path to get to the old town road. It's probably walk out the Sugar Road.
So
So
it's cut off.
you have to start at the town hall, I think they call it snake
Yes.
path
Yeah.
or whatever there, and then, kick on to the old town road. So I guess what I'm saying is that path goes nowhere, It goes to the
Yeah.
end of the stone wall, and,
That's private property.
It's a good point, and to your point, there's another way to get to the pipeline, and it's right here, it's 2 feet down the street. Here, it would make more sense to help with the sidewalks on Main Street, probably. I mean, that's what you will butt up to, and those sidewalks are in tough shape.
Yeah, it's
So that's
just,
probably
it's a
what,
cost we'd have to work into the development profile.
Understood.
So,
understood.
yeah, so we'd have to think about that.
I'll ask folks in the audience if they have questions, unless we have more questions or comments. Anybody in the audience? Please
I guess,
introduce
Mr.
yourself.
Chairman, I have a question for this young lady here. You mentioned some kind of a permit.
Martha, can you introduce
Martha
yourself?
Remington, Historical Commission.
Thank you.
And resident of Main Street.
Thank you.
I must be getting old, I forgot to mention that. You mentioned some kind of a permit
Yes.
before you were talking about, will this project require any state permitting?
I wouldn't know the answer to that, but the permit I was talking about is if you disturb more than an acre of land, you're required to get a NIPDES, which is National Pollution Elimination Discharge System permit, I think, is that right? From EPA, so it's a federal permit. And it's the permit itself is pretty straightforward, that you file with EPA, but the actual stormwater pollution prevention plan that you have to put together that has to be on site with the contractor and the contractor has to sign off is a fairly significant document. But that's a federal permit, not a state.
And it's semantics, but it's actually not a permit you're applying for, you're applying for coverage under a permit that already
Yeah,
exists.
it's a general permit. It's a general permit, it's a general federal permit from the construction general.
So because this lot is within the National Register Historic District, there aren't a lot of limitations, except if any state or federal permitting is required, Mass Historical Commission must be notified.
Right.
So state or federal, so this is a federal.
But I don't believe that would trigger that type of, a NIPDES permit, I don't think would trigger that.
Well, if EPA is involved,
I think it may, because I know with federal permits, like, that is considered, I believe, a federal permit, but I don't
It
know.
is, but we're not applying
it shouldn't
for it.
impede anything, it's just, there isn't a lot in the National Register District of restrictions. It's not like a local historic district, but that is one requirement, so Mass Historical would have to be notified because EPA had to be brought in.
Well, that could just
But
be.
EPA, yeah, I'm not saying we wouldn't do it, we're preserving the house, I don't think we're gonna have any pushback, but
But that has
I
nothing
don't
to do
think-
with it, it's the land.
Yeah.
I mean, there's almost 30 acres of land here, and the thing is, if we didn't notify them, if they weren't notified at least, that would be remiss. Usually Mass Historical finds out because EPA notifies them, but that's on huge projects and huge developments.
when you have a permit, an EPA permit, like you need a multi-sector permit or something. We're actually not applying for
Whatever,
it, that's
when you
why
said
I,
permit, it just triggered.
well, that's
me.
why I raised my comment, we're actually not applying for a permit. A federal
You're
permit
applying for coverage under a permit.
that already exists.
There's a blanket permit.
Just,
I
I
don't
mean, you
think
still,
that triggers.
once you get your NOI back from EPA, that's your permit. So you do have a federal permit, you have coverage under it, but I don't know if that triggers
I'm not
any state or
100%
not.
sure here, but I don't think that trips it, but I could be, I don't know, we'll have to research it. I haven't run into it. If we had a state, if it was a mass highway curb cut or something, we'd clearly be in that realm. It would be a state permit, or if we had a,
Or if you had the MISA, that would be a
Yeah,
state.
well, she even said permit.
well, the MISA wouldn't either, unless we had a comprehensive management plan. Unless they
Unless
tripped
you
us
did a
into-
take.
Unless it was a take and we had a CMP. But a first round MISA, no take or conditional no take would not
Not
be a state permit.
triggered.
Like that does not,
Yeah,
that wouldn't be a
you don't
MISA.
actually have to take.
Right.
Gotcha. I would just check on that, I think because you actually get a permit back from, with a notice of intent to EPA.
Who would I ask about that? Fred, have you had any experience with that?
No, I haven't.
Thanks.
Well, EPA knows about Mass Historical.
Call Mass Historic, they should know pretty quickly what.
And I will say, as part of your
Okay.
notice of intent, as you fill that out for your SWIP, you
Yeah.
have to address historic in there.
That's
So,
true.
I mean, there's
You're right,
a
that's
whole
true.
section with
No,
it,
you're right.
and that changed even more in depth
It
as
did
of
within-
January
Within
2017.
17. revision.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
it's a lot more in depth now, and you have to actually check whether you've notified
You're
as
actually right.
historic.
No, you're
So-
right. That is a good point. I forgot about that.
Just one more thing, has the planning board happened to see this wetland delineation map here? Or are you familiar with this? I'm just curious, how much percentage, and this is really a Concom question, I guess, how much percentage of that wetlands will be disturbed with this phosphate plan?
Very, very, I don't know, it would be less than 1%. We're disturbing,
So is it under wetland
I think it
regulation
is.
plan? Hold on.
couple
I
hundred.
mean, obviously, you're within the requirements.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
No, that's a good question.
If you were here
You're
to be like
replicating
this.
3,000, are you disturbing 2,000?
No.
Okay.
I think, do we label it on there? I think we do.
You have replication of 3,000, and I'm trying to see where, 1,000.
So we're.
You're doing a 3 to 1
Disturbing
replication.
1,000 square feet of wetland.
Which is well within the,
Right, under the 5,000 square feet threshold, which we would be sort of not entitled to, but sort of is allowed before you get into another permanent category under the wetland.
right.
A
if
5,000
you'd like,
square
I
foot
can get
threshold
you a
is
copy
gonna
of
trigger a
that.
ton of permits.
If you'd like, I'll give you a copy of that, right, tonight, I'll just make one, if you want it. I just thought that, I mean, this looked pretty significant.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of wetlands.
Here.
The only place we're
Because
disturbing wetlands
it's
is
just
the
for the crossing culvert.
Well, the only place we're disturbing the wetlands, all this blue is wet, and then it comes big system down in red, which is
And-
pretty much what lines with that. The other place we're disturbing it is right in where we're crossing, and that's where the existing
Where that
crossing
culvert
is.
is
Yes.
gonna be.
And we have to make it wider so that we can get a fire truck through there. and-
Okay, so none of the houses really, well, I mean, here,
There's only one place where we're impacting the buffer, which would be back in this area. All the rest, and the buffer zone for the detention bay, we can't do much about that, but all the other houses, this is the 100-foot buffer, the orange right here.
okay, great.
So we're all up, that's one of the reasons why the houses are so clustered,
Uh-huh.
because, you know.
Well,
we
but that's
can't-
okay in phosphorus,
Right.
that's the way you do it.
Right,
All right, so I'll just make.
And they're, just as a point, they're replicating 3,000, so they're doing a 3 to 1 replication. So they're putting back 3 times as much as what they're filling.
Yeah, but what do they do? Put in those low bush blueberries and all that other stuff that dies if you have a drought and whatever?
No, it looks like a pretty, I won't call it
Yeah, I mean,
wetlands, but.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're obligated to monitor that for 2 or 3 growing seasons, and I think by the 3rd growing season, you have to document that at least 80% is established.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So that's why we do more than what we've taken out, because we want to document that we've replicated more than what was altered. I think Bolton's standard is 3 to 1.
Oh, is it?
I think their wetlands guidelines are 3 to 1.
the
At least 2 to 1.
the state is only 1 to 1.
State's 1 to 1. Most towns are 1. I mean, I think Bolton's 3 to 1.
Thank you very much.
I would like to talk about the waivers. I think there's 2 that I can think of. One is a standard one that we ask for all the time on common driveways, which relates to the road pitch, the crown. We ask for, I think you require a 4% cross slope or a 3% cross slope. A standard road grade is 2%, so we usually just ask for that waiver, and historically, you give it. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. The other waiver relates to the phosphorus bylaw, and I failed to mention this in my opening presentation, but we asked you in the preliminary hearing, the preliminary meeting we came before you on when we were developing this concept. In order to make this happen, we do need a waiver from your irregularity coefficient, because these lots would not meet that. You have, the bylaw grants the board the authority to grant that in a special permit, phosphorus special permit. So the lot 1 would meet it, that meets the conventional lot with all the, but the 4 phosphorus lots, 1, 2, the 4 backland lots, I'll call them, they're not backland lots, but that's defined by bylaw, but the 4 lots in the back would need waivers, so we're requesting those.
I'm comfortable with it. I think the ramifications of it are a lot of the things that we talked about here today, right?
Yeah.
Because of the shape, you end up having a subdivision where you've got neighbors behind you instead of adjacent to you. So keeping existing vegetation to create kind of a barrier.
Yeah, but the reason we did it is I think for a good reason, is to try and preserve something.
I understand.
And there's no real
So
way.
you don't have to go traditional.
Like I was just pointing out, this is you can't put any houses in here because it's all buffer.
Yeah.
So we're pretty limited to, you know, the land area when we take into account the 17 acres of open space. So, I mean, we really tried to be sensitive to the sort of the spirit of why it was developed, to preserve sort of, you know, significant buildings, you know, phosphorus regulations, to preserve significant land and buildings and things, and that's why we went down this route.
I would the fact that they did the country drainage into the swales versus the curb and gutter,
Yeah.
which is a low impact development technique, and just the phosphorus layout itself is another
Right.
element, if you want to claim that.
Yeah, yeah, we could, yeah, right. And the-
So like I said, the things that we talked about tonight, I think are important, and in the context of that, I have no issue with the waivers.
I believe in one more waiver.
Oh, did I?
Yes, I think they're all, the one you mentioned about phosphorus on the phosphorus plan.
Yeah.
And then you have two on the site plans. One was the
Crosswalk.
percent instead of half percent. The other was the cross pitch all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the crown, right? But I believe they're both on the plans, right?
So the other one, your standard, your regulations require a crown
Yep.
section, and, you know, we'd like to, we're doing the swale on this side. We only want to do one swale, so we want to push the whole thing over. And then a 24-foot road pavement, you'd have a 12-foot,
Yep.
you know, it'd be the same, right? So, I mean, it's a.
Nope, I think that
definitely
makes sense.
doable. That's another waiver that we've
Yep.
sort of historically asked for. So,
Great, could we possibly just talk about the open space again?
I actually was gonna talk about it again.
Oh, all right.
It's a great segue. Go ahead.
No, I was just, because if you look at the phosphorus bylaw, it can either be open space or it can be
Farming.
preserved as farming. So I don't know if this property lends itself to the farming, it would be really nice to do that, but I
Yeah.
was hoping you could talk about that.
The applicant's desire would be, as he mentioned, to function as a steward of the land. He has, the intention of living here, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but he has the intention of living here and has the intention of sort of working maintaining it as in its current state. So we think, and as your bylaw prefers, we prefer to have a farmland restriction on that. I don't see any limitations to that. When I read it tonight, I don't see why we couldn't do that. There's limitations to what you can and cannot do in a farmland restriction, but we're not proposing any of them. So, and his intention would be to maintain that. There's 4 options for ownership on a farmland open space. It can be conveyed to the town, it can be conveyed to a third-party conservation agency, it can be conveyed to the homeowners association, or it can be maintained in private ownership. And the applicant's desire would be to do that, in keeping with what his desire is to work the land, maintain it in its current state, and sort of be a steward there.
So it becomes a 61A?
Well, there would be a restriction as part of this process. It wouldn't necessarily need a 61A. It just,
But it's restricted in perpetuity
Yep.
and infinitum.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's precedence for that in town. The Northwood subdivision, up on Water Road.
Yeah,
There's 3 open space parcels there. One of them is along Harvard Road where the field is across from Freedom Farm.
Yeah.
Willoughby's.
yep,
That is farmland restriction, privately held. So they can maintain the field, hay it, and that kind of thing.
okay.
So, it's the way the bylaw was set up.
Yep.
It's done that way. So that would be that would be the applicant's preference. to do
Makes
that.
sense to me,
Yeah.
sure.
I have a question for Erica. So I just read through the open space, so I'm trying to remember. I know they said they preferred something. Was it they
It's
preferred?
this because it's a perpetuity.
Right.
Well,
It's stronger.
yeah, and they prefer the farmland because, I mean, it's the whole intent, I think, the whole intent of the farmland open space,
Yeah.
phosphorus was to preserve farming
Sure.
functions in the town, so.
Versus completely just transferring it to the
Like
town.
chapter land, they can take it out of chapter land, that's not really,
Right.
you're not really preserving it long, in
Right.
perpetuity.
Yeah, right.
But
So,
they
that would
prefer
be-
this because you're not just transferring it to the town, like the owner's maintaining it. What do they prefer, the farm?
Oh, in terms of ownership?
Oh,
ownership.
I don't think there is a preference, it's
Oh, okay.
just as long as it goes to someone.
Yeah, it doesn't, the bylaw is silent with that, it just says there's 4 options.
Yeah,
I was just trying to remember the open space.
it's been the town, and when I say town, it's usually the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
It's been the Bolton Conservation Trust that's owned it, and from what Greg has said, it's been in private ownership as
Yep.
well, so.
Yep. And that would be the preference here, and I think it makes sense.
And then just a couple of other things. We will need to see a common driveway easement agreement.
Yep, we have
And
that,
then the maintenance agreement,
yeah,
more importantly, the maintenance
Yeah.
agreement.
maybe it's in common driveway. Yeah, okay.
And then, did the board want to do a site visit?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I will send out an email to schedule that.
Unless, go ahead, please, introduce yourself, please.
Tim Fielder, Wheeler Road, also Bolton Historical Society,
Thank you.
not the commission. We're powerless. Obviously, our biggest concern when we started hearing about all this was the original buildings.
Yep.
I'm certainly encouraged by the attitude I seem to see from the applicants coming about wanting to live and preserve it and stay. So I'm viewing this certainly more positively than seeing the buildings raised in the previous plan. And it looks like you're conscious of preserving also just the basic landscape, especially the street view and stuff like that. I, being a barn guy, love the barn. Keep Frank's sign up there, please.
Definitely.
And all in all, we don't like to see disappearance of old farmsteads, but if we can treat them favorably like this, we're certainly in favor. I was kind of pleased to see the way this kind of went tonight. And having known John and Lily a little bit when I first moved to town, I'd be a little happier with this than having...
Yeah, especially the steward of the land. Lily didn't want me to be the steward.
I like the attitude,
And that
clearly you're
was,
serious.
And we're very serious about that. I mean,
Good.
I hope you can tell from the way that we've taken care of,
Yeah.
I mean, we redid the barn, we redid the rocks that were holding it up, we kind of like kept all the
If you all
painting.
know, that it's actually part of a grouping, the Gardner houses.
Right.
You know, the father's across the street and the two houses were built for the children coming, so that we like to view it as the Gardner group,
Okay.
and anything that stays and keeps it intact is in our favor. So I'm encouraged by what I see here.
Thank you. I'm comfortable entertaining the motion to close the hearing.
Let's
we're
keep
into site
it,
visit.
yeah.
Because of the visit?
Because of the,
Okay.
and
I'd like
Greg
to
is
revise
getting the,
calculations.
yeah.
Then I'd be comfortable entertaining a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing.
But we
We have to
have,
set a date.
and we have dates of,
September 13th, 7:30 PM.
give me 1 minute. Just make sure.
Hopefully that'll work for
I
you
don't want to
guys.
miss it.
That's gonna be a busy night.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Are we gonna deal with any of the waivers today or not?
I think that can be dealt with when you guys close the hearing, you make the motion to approve it.
I mean, unless you were inclined to grant one, then we'd want to...
Like I said, we're supportive of it as long as we incorporate the things that we talked about today. That's my thoughts. Thank you, guys.
Just so I'm clear on that, you're talking like honoring screening between buildings and things like that? Okay.
Thank you.
So, can I just ask, will the site visit be before the next hearing?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so, will we know when that?
I was gonna include Greg on the email. Great.
Oh, we're not gonna schedule that now, we'll schedule that.
Oh, it's up to the board, do you want to
You
schedule
can
it?
try to, yeah.
Okay, sure. This could be interesting.
Looking at his phone, it's a little scary.
And I think the doodle poll or whatever usually works pretty good.
Well, let's at least kind
Yeah, you can try.
of, what time's
That's-
best?
That's fine, if you guys want to do it offline, an email, it's fine, whatever you guys want.
Like, if we're doing it the next 2 weeks, I just have a book schedule, so that's why I would say maybe the doodle poll might work.
So maybe
better, but-
after Labor Day? Would that work better for the group?
I could throw out some days now if we want to try and do it now, but
Sure, what do you?
Friday, the 18th, pretty much any time in the afternoon. Frankly,
Can't do all
pretty much any
during
any
the
time
morning.
of the day.
So you have more banker hours.
8 o'clock?
I'll be in both.
7 o'clock?
I think I'm pretty much out the 18th.
Let's take it offline.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll send the doodle poll, but just to make it easier, what times of day are you looking for? 7 a.m., 8 a.m.? Or are you looking for more like a 6 p.m.?
I'd say
7 p.m.?
either.
Yeah, either.
Maybe throw a couple 8s.
7 p.m. might be getting a little too late. come September, I don't know.
6 PM.
6 PM or
That
is
type
that
of-
pretty-
8 AM or 6 PM?
8 AM or
Yeah.
6 PM, okay.
Could you just include Brandon on that?
Brandon, okay.
Yeah, I mean, include me too, but include Brandon.
Yeah.
So, Brandon would have been here tonight, he does apologize, he had another commitment, so. You got the B team.
You did just fine. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Very much.
Appreciate your time.
I'm sorry. You're gonna be fine. It's just a pink.
Not that I have to use it.
I have a nice to meet you.
Yep, that's
Greg, are you speaking on behalf of Habitat?
Sure am.
Greg, I have a quick question. For this revised one, there was a check thing for proprietary devices? Proprietary devices, right? Just check the stormwater checklist, because it was checked off, and I just unchecked it.
That's why I wrote it up there.
Is that going to swing back the other way?
Well, no, that's just preliminary.
Flat out said.
Was it?
Yeah, it was word for word.
All right.
You know,
At least fix the.
How far is
I
it?
gotta shake hands. You see it.
Why else do we hear it? It's not.
Yeah.
No, I can get a PDF and a PDF
Is there gonna be clean?
because then I can print it off.
I'm sitting there.
Look at it.
You mean the other side?
Yeah, maybe just.
I don't know what that says, I'm just saying, they're gonna have.
I'm just
How you moved up.
if they need to,
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I think that's opening a bigger can of worms, and maybe I'm just looking.
Yeah, thanks for showing.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
I'm staying too. How you doing?
I mean, I know, there's an immediate fund that we have, that,
You know, James?
What do we got?
You know what?
This is for the Habitat subdivision piece that you've issued the preliminary approval for. I think I have the definitive set of plans and calcs ready for my review, so you're gonna see it pretty quick, just so you know. just to give you a heads up. This exercise is for a closing drill that the Habitat needs to make with landowners. So as you recall, may recall, there's a 5.5 acre piece that's being.
I hate to interrupt you, I actually need to recuse myself.
Okay.
With this, and I'll just sit right there.
Why?
I am in environment,
well,
yes.
yeah, she.
Her land's.
Yeah.
You are.
Cool.
You are? Where do you live?
195, but while the house is not even close to it, our parcel,
Yeah, your
we own
parcel
part of the
touches
pond,
it.
we own part of the pond.
Are you, you're on one of the commons? The common driveways down there?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
at the end of
Oh, I
one of
didn't know
them.
that.
You own a piece of that pond?
I own majority of that pond.
Which common driveway? The one with 6, like Wagner?
Yes,
Oh, you are?
it's the last one that has like 6 houses on it.
Yeah, coming up, is it like with Dave Wagner and,
It's with, it's the one closest to Twin Springs.
oh, down that way?
Yeah, the other way, which is why you
Yeah, yeah.
think that I'm in a butter.
Yeah, how do you
but
guys,
it goes
how do you,
all the way.
how do you guys not share water? Like, how do you keep your water separate from the other?
All right.
Okay, so this is only for the purposes of our applicant's ability to close on the property for the residential subdivision portion. So as you recall, there's a piece of land in a commercial zone that is going to be preserved for future development. So what we've basically done is drawn a polygon around the land that will be used for the subdivision. And we've produced this A&R plan so that we can put a plan on record and they can close on just that land.
Yep.
So that the applicant for the subdivision that we're about to submit will be indeed Habitat or whatever entity they buy it under. So that's the purpose of this plan.
Okay.
It clearly has frontage, it clearly has area. We called it Lot A so that when we do a subdivision and we have lot 1, 2, 3, 4, that there's not a lot
Yeah,
1 already in existence,
yeah,
so
that makes
we just
sense.
call it lot A.
And obviously, the size, the shape, the characteristics of the whole thing are consistent with the subdivision plan that you put before us, not the
Correct.
crazy changes.
No,
Okay.
no, I mean, we've tweaked a few of the house locations and tried to make it a little bit more, actually to your point, a little bit more,
Okay.
less, a little bit less house and back of house.
Yep.
But the overall
Okay.
shape is good.
So the remaining part of A, that's what gets you the amount for the tradition, the
Yeah.
traditional plan that.
Yeah, if you remember, we had
That's that
some,
wet piece.
Yeah.
Right?
we had some land and we needed to have some of the business land to
Yeah.
prove out the system, so, so anyway, that's one.
Yeah.
So,
I also see you left a little over 200 on Forbush, so
yeah,
there's frontage there,
yeah,
potentially, I mean, it gives options, I guess.
right,
So that business parcel is getting carved out, right?
correct.
How many acres is Lot B? It's,
Lot B is 5.44,
okay,
which I think is exactly what we presented to you on the.
Awesome.
right, so that could actually, in the future, even get, you have frontage on 2 streets, you could even make that, you know, two
there's no-
business lots.
McDonald's, yeah.
Huh? McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts.
What'd you say, McDonald's?
But when he had a Dunkin' Donuts there, well, it's right across from high school.
Typically like a Wendy's and
That's why you wanted the paths coming up. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess.
No, but
it's not quite
with the
as
5
bad.
acres, then you can split that up and you have frontage on 2 roads, so potentially you could have 2,
Yeah, it looks like,
Eric's
yeah.
always thinking.
yeah, you could have 2 businesses,
Both being
potentially.
2.
Yeah. Classic pizza 4.
Yeah, you could potentially have a couple things.
I have that knowledge. Yeah, this is good.
No, I mean, we knew this was coming, so
Yeah.
they still have to change Fosford to not allow that commercial thing down in the future.
Okay, we got a
The
good
rules are what they are.
We got a good deal here.
Yep.
I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the subdivision as shown on the July 27th plan.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Grab a pen.
Thank you.
This is great. It's great that we're able to do this.
Are you doing Long Hill as well?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I can go back.
So this is what? You're heading down Long Hill, you're approaching Woodway, you take a right at the four-way?
Yeah.
So now you're heading to Manning Street.
Yeah.
How far
It's on the
down?
right, about,
So up the hill, in the woods.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll pull a plan out.
Let me get my settings.
I'll pull a plan out.
Oh, I gotta sign this. I'll do that. Sign them all?
Yes.
The 9th of August?
Yes.
Is it?
Yep.
So who are some of your butters? Because I plowed one, I didn't plow that one.
Let's see. Oliver is right, I'm like at the very end, the very end. It's the,
Does it have a wicked 90 on it? Like,
you kind of come down it, and then it not only has a 90 degree, it has it with a slope, so it's a horrible thing to get up in
you
the
go down there,
wintertime.
there's like a field to the left when you get way down there?
Yes, eventually, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted me to get on that to plow, and I said, no way.
It's a nightmare getting out there.
Yeah, I did 2 of the ones up the hill. I did, it was the first one, as you're coming,
Yep,
on the other
yep,
side.
Yep,
the 6 houses down there too.
yep.
And then I did the, not Rossini's, but the next one down.
Okay, yeah, generosity, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're the last road after the infamous culvert heading to Twin
Yes,
Springs and before
yes.
Old Bay?
Which, right before Old Bay, yeah, so that last,
That was
drive-
the- that
well,
was
you
the
remember
first
where they
road.
had the driveway? Well,
Yeah, right there, that's right.
That's the one, yeah.
Right in Hamel.
That's right.
Yes.
That old duplex that he had, it's getting foreclosed on.
It is?
They're doing an auction. I don't know when.
Really? So that
Yeah, that's
guy,
been
Woodman,
foreclosed for a while.
Mr. Woodman,
Yes,
he's an interior designer.
yes, exactly.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's an interesting.
It is, it's pretty cool. It's a good view.
It's a beautiful view.
So you looked into that? What's going on with that property?
I don't know.
It's
time
been-
yet.
Huh?
I don't know what time yet. I don't know what the date's.
Because I was looking online, yeah.
It's been foreclosed for a while.
It needed quite a bit, it needed quite a bit of
We
work.
just saw
last time I was in
the weeds are about to grow over
Well,
the
they've
Okay.
boarded, it's been boarded up for a while.
Okay. It's a good site though.
I guess I
It's,
thought of it.
oh my
Good
goodness.
place for 2 nice condos, but you gotta dump some money.
No, not condos. It's like you got the best view.
Yeah,
Like Belmont shoots it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah, I see.
Well,
what
it's
you're
not, it's not, I think you can see, can't you see the Monadnock from there?
saying. Yeah, I mean, you can see really far from there. That's beautiful sunsets
Yeah,
and.
yeah, oh, yeah. so
We used to
it's-
snowmobile and 4-wheel all up around there.
Oh, you did?
Oh, okay.
It was Orchard, yeah,
Oh, sure, yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, it's cool land down there with, you know, the other pond on the, not, the pond near you, the one up.
The one that's bigger and clearer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, oh, awesome. That's good. So did you get a copy of this?
I do, I get most of them.
You get most? I just did one.
I think we just need two, so if you want one of the.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that. It's easier to copy it. Okay. Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm assuming Long Hill is next? Yes, please. So, this is a project that our office didn't have anything to do with until recently, but here we are. This project was permitted back in the 2006 timeframe. Fancy. And your board, previous iteration of your board, I don't know if anybody was here, probably not, issued a common driveway permit based on this plan. And it has since expired. The people that own Lot 4C are now, I think they've owned it almost since then, but they're just now looking to build on this. And they have we've developed a plan for that, septic plan with we've done the soil testing, we've done all the grading for the house and things. But would now require that the improvements be made to the driveway up to common driveway standards because it would be the third house on the lot.
How does this connect to
It
this?
doesn't. That's
not
a separate driveway, yeah.
So
there's
what's
two-
the third?
There's two houses out here.
There's 2, I didn't see it.
So here's a layout plan. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and that kind of snakes over.
Oh, okay.
So you have those lots there. So it accesses those 3 pieces there.
This is the proposed one.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So when the applicants approached us about this and said, yeah, we gotta improve the common driveway, we said, well, you had a plan that was approved. It has expired, but the regulations haven't changed. Your common driveway regulations haven't changed. And, so we thought it was reasonable, rather than reinventing the wheel, to just ask you if you would reinstate that permit based on the previously approved plan, on the basis that nothing regulation-wise has changed. And it's still the same proposal as before. It's still 3 lots, and we're not adding on, it's not.
What's changed with existing conditions over the past 11 years? Anything?
No, so the driveway exists there today, it just needs to be improved to common driveway standards based on that, which is what this plan sought to do.
The road hasn't changed, we don't have
Is this-
street lights,
is this paved or is it dirt?
It's gravel.
Okay, so it has to be paved?
We are proposing to pave it, yeah, this plan proposed to pave it, and it's still the plan.
So you'd have to add the turnaround and the...
Yeah, but yeah, and again, so this was done by Ross Engineering.
Yep.
And, we're working for this client, we just didn't, it didn't seem to make any sense for us to re-engineer a plan that was already approved.
that was, where nothing has changed. It literally was just, it was just, the same conditions exist.
Would you and Brandon do anything substantially different if you started this as a greenfield?
So having said all that I just said,
Yeah.
Fred did review it.
Yep.
And has issued, so I think Fred and I would both like to think that we're probably better engineers now than we were 10 years ago.
Another thing that, I went through my records and not everything was addressed. We never saw this plan.
Okay.
We saw the one previous to it back in 2006.
Yep.
And not everything was addressed. If you have my letter in front of you, I added the original comment letter down at the end of my current one, and noted what was addressed there and what wasn't. The beginning of my letter is some current comments that really have to do with a number of things, and that is, over time, we've learned that these plans have to be more detailed because of construction inspection. It's vague, and a lot of things are debated and argued out in the field. So anyways, there's a combination there of the current review, which is the first part of my letter, and then responses to our initial review in 2006. That some of those things still weren't done, weren't revised on the plan. That
So
was
this
approved.
plan as we see it is missing things as we work through it today?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, not so much by regulation, by experience.
Yeah.
Secondly, there is some that wasn't responded to from 2006 on the plan that got approved, got signed.
Do you disagree with either of those two points, or you on board with those?
Yeah, no, it seems clear. So if this, Fred's letter is two parts, and starting on page 3 is his 2006 letter. I mean, we went the front, I can't go in my files and pull this information out, but I just take it as word that there wasn't. But, and it does seem like there's some things here that are going to be updated. So I was just giving you more of a baseline of history of why we're here filing, Duchamp Dillis filing a Ross engineering plan.
Right.
We haven't merged.
Right.
So that was sort of our thinking, was really just initially like, why would we reinvent the wheel here when there's already an approved plan? So, having said that, we have Fred's comments, which would require, so to answer your question about would we do this the same way?
Yeah.
I think the look and feel of the plan's been a little bit different. I think generally the alignment would be the same. I think there's a few things that Fred references in here, both in his older letter and his new comments relative to vertical geometry, that I think I'd probably do a little different.
Yep.
Not that the way they did it is really wrong, because it's a driveway, but usually when I'll do a profile, I'll kind of smooth it a little bit. I'll introduce some vertical curves and some, especially on the, Fred points out two areas, the pretty dramatic change in grade at the peak and at the sag down the bottom. I mean, I would do some tweaks like that. So, we're at a point where we filed this. We're on with you in 3 weeks. We called Ross. We have a good working relationship with Dan Wolf at Ross. So we talked to him today about how we're gonna do this. And it's either gonna be they revise it, or they just hand it off to us. And we just take the torch.
Use this as a, okay.
And it's probably gonna be the latter.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're gonna get it done. You know, they really want to break ground on it this year. I mean, they've got quite the team here. There's a landscape architect, it's gonna be not insignificant house.
Okay.
And they're down the design road. And so they want to get rolling on it. So, so we're real time sensitive. We want to get things addressed in time for the meeting that's already scheduled. I think, is it the 13th? We're on the 13th?
Yeah, I wanted the board to just weigh in, make sure that was an appropriate date, that's the idea.
So they're willing to give you like the AutoCAD files, so that way you can just take them and tweak them as to meet the comments and stuff?
And if, to your point, if there's things that I need to see on there for my stamp to
So then you'll submit
It's
a
open, you
revised
can do it.
plan.
Yeah, and we'll either submit, I guess what I'm saying, it'll either be a modified plan of this, or it'll be a Ducharme Dillis plan.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's fine, we'll review it as we review anything.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you stop.
Yeah, so it's nice to have, I mean, Fred's already, I think it's great. Prior to this meeting, he did go through and he got this, so I mean, we're in good shape to address these comments.
Logically, if we looked at a plan that's 11 years old, it was done by a competent firm, Fred reviews it, doesn't have any major issues with it, to your original request, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world.
Well, that's
If
what
you
we're
guys
hoping.
both look at this and say, you really should change a couple of
Yeah.
things.
Well, you know, so
And
having
use it
said,
as a foundation and change a couple of things.
yeah. So having said all that, I don't think any of these things are really that difficult to overcome.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I don't know, I think we can probably make, everybody's busy now, but I mean, I think we can probably make most of them in there, but I mean, I think even some of these things could be just, with the exception of a few. One of the comments is mitigating drainage, the last 60 feet of the road that runs down, and mitigating,
Yeah.
that's become a bigger deal in town over the last decade.
Yep.
So that's,
That is a bit of a problem here too. It's not great, it is a
Yeah.
lot worse in town, but it is wet there
I
sometimes.
mean, they're mitigating that by these, but it's just that last piece that
Yeah.
wouldn't get to these basins that would be,
Okay.
you know, but that's something we need to look at. Changing the vertical geometry, again, I don't think that's it's not a showstopper, but I think that's a,
You can see like adding a swale.
yeah, there was
They
one.
did do that, right? Didn't I say that was done?
Yeah.
Oh, it was done, okay, sorry, I just saw
You
it,
say
that it was
that in bold?
asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, the swale is shown on the currently reviewed plan.
Okay.
8, 9, 10.
And can I just say,
1,200.
Yes.
just that comment about the drainage going onto the road, 11 years ago, it wasn't,
Yeah,
now it's a big issue.
Yeah, right.
So there, things, even though it was approved,
yeah,
and it has expired,
that's how it
if it
works.
didn't expire, that's life, and if
Yeah.
and you sign it, you sign it.
yeah, we'll learn the next
But
time.
you have the opportunity to make this much in conformance as it is by all the issues that have been coming through town along with regulations and so forth,
Sure.
and better design thoughts. So I think it should be re-looked at and opened and approved.
Okay, there's enough there, okay.
So I think we can address most of these things, but I mean, honestly, probably a lot of these things you almost could just condition. Because I don't think, you more or less conditioned it before, because this letter was, I mean, we had approval, and these things were outstanding, so there must have been conditions. Or
Yeah, I'm not sure, I don't know, I don't know.
So,
And sight distance, once again, is one of the things to the north now. There is, whether the tree is growing a little more, but there's one tree that really takes away from the sight distance there.
yeah, that was one of your comments, right, to show the trees.
But there's only one tree, maybe a second
How
one,
about the driveway head to Stowe or Hudson?
to Stowe,
To Stowe, okay, all right,
to the left.
okay.
To the right's clear and free.
Yeah, right,
And
right there,
there's
okay.
one, maybe two, if one got taken out, you probably can see the 310 feet they show
Okay.
there or something like that. Which you don't even need, you only need 180 feet. But that tree is either leaned more or, and I know it's 10 years and
It's
it
got
doesn't grow huge, but it might be just enough of a deterrent now.
Okay,
So would that require a scenic road hearing? Is that in the road right
Yeah.
away?
well,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's just an example.
If we need to say, yep.
Sure.
Things can change, and thoughts change.
Yep.
You know, once again,
Yeah, I mean, so, we were just trying to.
and regulations change.
Try to make it easy.
Well,
Nothing's easy.
My
No, I
preference
hear you.
is to see if you guys have the time to make most of these changes. I hate to see too many things get conditioned because then it becomes a problem during construction. So
Well, you
I
can
would say
condition-
as much as you can get done in terms of, revised design, I would.
I hate
agree to do
conditions.
that.
It
Yeah.
gets lost in the wash,
It
it
really
always does.
does.
It's nobody's fault, but it always does.
Another example, you know, the 30 by 40 foot terminus.
Yep,
From what I've seen currently in the past, recently, it's always been paved.
Pave the bar.
That's not paved on that one.
okay.
So there's things like that just have changed. Like I said, they might be unwritten,
Yep,
but they've been the precedent that's been followed more recently.
okay,
And that would require a waiver if you continue to want to do it as a gravel
okay.
turnaround.
So does it,
It does, because it's in the rules and regs.
So you have to pave it.
There's nothing in there that says the turnaround can be gravel. It
That's-
it just essentially
right,
says.
doesn't say it has to be
tire
paved,
drive.
but it doesn't, but you just assume that
The tire- it just says the
it's a
driveway
different
needs to be
shape,
paved.
different area,
Yeah.
size-wise. So that's my opinion. on the
So
whole.
anyway, that's where that's the road we've gone down, and we're at a point where we have to take it a little further, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Just
And then I had-
get it cleaned up.
We'll have to come up with the same agreements that we talked about.
I was just gonna mention that, because that is one of my concerns. The easement agreement has already been done, it's referenced in all of the deeds, so that's not an issue that we can check off. But the maintenance agreement, I think it might be a little more complicated, because you have two existing owners.
yeah,
I don't know how that's gonna work, because they need to reference it in their deeds as
So-
well as,
I can't speak for them, but Brandon believes they're total on board with this, because they're gonna get a driveway improvement. It's gonna be paved, and they're gonna now have another party that shares in the responsibility about.
No, yeah.
so
right.
I would think, just as a security, I would wanna see their deeds updated, because if it's not in their deeds, then they're not gonna be tied to it, so, I don't know how that's gonna play out.
Your client would want to see it updated.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
Yeah,
It's
no,
in
no,
your
it's-
client's
and that's in, and
Yeah.
that's a comment, I mean, yeah.
Well, how big of a house? Big old guy, it sounds like?
Yeah, it's a good-sized house. Brandon's been working on the site plan, but it's bigger than that. I'll leave it at that.
4.5 acre, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
Where's the wall gonna be, just for?
The well?
Yeah.
So I think the new plan is sort of a circular type driveway like this, and I think the well's in the middle of it. And then the house sits back here, and the septic system's over there, roughly.
Okay.
So,
So what's behind you? That's conservation there?
actually, the house sits behind this boulder, so the house is gonna sit behind the boulder, and then the septic system's over here, and the kind of the driveway is circular like that. The well's in the middle, I think.
Chief Menser is here. I imagine he wants to weigh in on something.
I just had a couple of comments. First is, probably my biggest concern is that about the first 25% of the current driveway as it is very steep and narrow. So I was gonna ask the question, in the current common driveway requirements, how wide does the shoulder have to be? Is it just the 1 foot that they indicate here, or is it wider?
That's a great question.
And what we found is that, a 12-foot driveway with a 1 foot shoulder, today, in 6 years becomes an 11-foot driveway with no shoulder, just because things grow in. So if we could start with as wide of a cleared areas as possible, that certainly would be an advantage trying to get a large, fire truck down the driveway.
Yep.
And then also, I think I saw somewhere where it showed the street number signage, and it would be nice if they could just be kind of brought into the look and feel that we've been using today for the signs.
Yeah.
And not have Long Hill Road, on the signs. That's not necessarily just takes up space.
Yeah, that's kind of like, well, that would be one of the details we change.
Yeah.
We have our sort of standard package that works.
And certainly, if there's the option of having the turnaround being paid, I certainly would be for that. And those are my comments.
You're saying you would pave the whole thing, or that's up in the air?
No, it's supposed to be paid.
Okay.
Yep.
1,200 feet, that'll be pretty cheap.
It's not, that's the other thing, so, it's a shared driveway, but this guy's on the hook for this improvement. And it's the guy that, this isn't a development, this is the guy's gonna, the person's gonna live there, and, so we're just trying to make it as painless as possible.
So what about,
It's not an insignificant improvement.
water
So,
supply? I keep bringing that up, but, what's the distance?
That's a good question.
Yeah, how does that trigger? You got
They're only
existing
creating
houses?
one house though.
I don't know, but
The
it's-
construction of one house.
Yeah.
How's it worded?
But you got
It's
a
the
common
construction
driveway,
of
though.
3 or more.
Construction.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about those two houses.
Well, but these
I was
are-
thinking about for this house, because this one's the one being built, I don't know.
I have the buyout.
That guy's just grandfathered, so maybe.
Maybe he's grandfathered? He's ready to build.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I was kind of just thinking that, not opening up that whole can of worms, but this is still, 800 feet?
Probably.
Yeah,
The whole
it's 8,
12.
1,200 to there.
it essentially says the requirements of this section shall apply whenever an applicant constructs 3 or more residential
Yeah.
buildings on
Oh,
a
so you
single
don't
lot or
have to-
contiguous lots.
You're only
Oh,
constructing, he's only constructing one.
Yeah, so you had to be constructing 3 new.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if you're changing the driveway, but you're not constructing new houses. And it's not ambiguous.
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, and it was permitted originally for 3, and this is just that this guy
Never built it.
never built it, so it's kind of falls in, I mean.
I think it
was
is
originally
kind of
permitted for-
grandfathered, yeah.
Then why do we let a shared
Well,
driveway go
yes,
through?
but the existing shared driveway was already there when he came before planning board to get the special permit for the common driveway, at least that's how I understand it,
Yeah.
so.
It was always just a one house.
Yeah, it was always,
I mean, this is the plan, this plan is 11 years old.
Yeah.
So 11 years ago, these houses existed.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So it's not like they built those 2 11 years ago?
Right. Okay.
It's, yeah,
Still the same project, like I said, it's still the same project as
you
it
can
was.
see you talking your way out of that one.
What else?
I think that's it. I guess our desire would be to try to, are you folks inclined to do a site walk on this one? Or if you are, it would be appreciative if we could get it in there before the hearing so that we could, I don't want to, but there's a way we can open and shut the thing and.
Yeah, if we could just-
Can we get a revised plan, I mean, because you're gonna.
Well, that's our
resubmit this?
intent, yeah, to get,
And
I don't need to walk it, but I
Yeah.
won't prevent other folks from.
Yeah, I don't think we need
obviously,
to have a schedule.
But I don't need to.
you can just go at your own.
Yep.
Is there somebody we could email if we want to stop by or something?
Well, there's been a filing made, so,
Just
I
drive
think-
over and walk up?
I think you can.
We won't get
Drive
shot.
up there.
I think.
Is there a house there?
You made a
There's nothing
filing,
there,
so
right?
I think.
No bloodthirsty dogs or anything?
I just took a walk up the driveway tonight, and no problems at all.
I've driven up there too, and you can park right in, as you drive in to the left, there's a place to pull off
Yeah, I'm not sure,
onto the
but
driveway.
right over here.
This is the gas easement. Yeah.
But just drive up and turn around, come,
Yeah, that's what I
it's a
do.
long walk too, I mean.
Yeah, you just drive up and
It's,
down.
it's not a heck of a lot to see, it's this wide, right? I mean, it's not wide at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm?
That's in the woods.
Which is 25 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is
right.
country living.
Yeah.
There's no turnout, so if someone's coming the other way, you gotta back down.
Yeah.
So it's only the 2 houses at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess anything like that you could help us out on, we'd appreciate it, and we'll
Yeah, I don't think we
we'll
need
endeavor to get you the plan as soon as possible, but, everybody's busy, but, to that extent, to the extent that we're gonna get review comments, we do appreciate getting them quick, so thank you, appreciate it. We were hoping not to get any, but, all right.
I didn't say that, you just wanted to quickly, you said, boy, you gotta be more.
We want Eddie.
Anyway, so that's what we would be looking to do. So, yeah, I don't see any, in the comment letter, I don't see any, there's no like showstoppers at this point.
Okay.
I can see, I mean,
Okay.
we're talking, we just gotta find a few days of drafting time, engineering time to get it done.
You'll be back next meeting, or maybe the one after? It's fine with us if you're back next meeting, if you can do it.
Well, yeah, we'd like to
You got
stay
it.
on track if we can, to get to whatever your next.
Sounds good to me.
13th, I think.
Yep.
That would be terrific.
Okay.
And if, for whatever reason, we can't get your plan, we can just continue, but I think we'd really like to,
Okay.
client would really like us to stay on track.
Okay.
So we appreciate that.
Keep us in the loop.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
that's it.
So we'll get 15,000.
I haven't set the time yet.
Yeah, the notices haven't gone out yet.
Not yet.
All right, great. Thank you, sorry, I you guys have more time.
You earned your bacon. Thank you.
See you tomorrow, Jim.
Administrative, Erica?
Yes, that's 2 AM.
I will raise my hand and admit that I did not get through this. I did not read this.
So I read through the whole thing today.
Slow day at work.
No, not really, but I read fast. I read through it pretty fast, and I had kind of some concerns, actually. One more general one is just the insistence that the town just acquires land. You know, it's very heavy on that, like just purchase, keep on acquiring, which I'm not sure I'm a whole fan of. But
Through how? Conservation trust efforts, more private efforts?
well, talk about, in like what we just dealt with, getting open space through Fosbridge, but also purchases and in any way possible.
Okay.
Whenever something you can possibly get. I mean, the gist of it is keep collecting, keep collecting land. So that's more of a general
Collecting
thing.
or preserving.
Yeah, collecting and preserving. Yeah, exactly like that. But a more specific concern I had, which there's pretty much a direct conflict with the cottage overlay that we've been working on, because they talk about in there, they want affordable, but they want to maintain it as kind of how we've been doing it with the, onesie, twosie here or there. They don't want to deal with affordable in a condensed, developed
High density.
High density.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the wording in their document. They want to maintain the characteristic of town, and they don't want to have a condensed, kind of development to try to meet the affordable thing. So it's, so especially in your letter here where you say, joint affordable housing, open space projects, I don't know if maybe we need to say we agree with most of it, but, we are working on the cottage overlay, which kind of doesn't directly, isn't completely in sync with the document as I read it. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
I mean, maybe
I think
people
we
need to read it more too, but the gist I got is that they, that open space document wouldn't approve of the cottage overlay as we're working on it. I don't know if you feel the same.
Which it just seems counterintuitive, because, open space, like cluster developments promote open space, because you're clustering the
When they
development
wanted
area.
that.
And so, and I agree, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read up on this. I was concentrating more on the other projects, but why they wouldn't be in favor of the affordable,
So in there.
In fairness, they wrote this before.
We're
We're drafting the cottage, so they don't technically really know about it very much.
Right.
I think, and plus this was an update from a previous OSRP, so
Yeah.
really their focus was on the phosphorus, and I think that was, that's how I read it, was we're in favor of the phosphorus.
Which is true, they were in favor of, if they'd much rather always choose phosphorus over traditional.
Yeah,
which
if you
is
look at the
100%.
action items, one of them states, encourage joint affordable housing open space projects where appropriate to the site in order to foster support for both of these important municipal needs. I think the cottage overlay does fall within that action item, because we are creating affordable housing, and we're gonna do it in a way that also preserves open space.
I mean, they
so-
do specifically say not to try to meet affordable through a condensed.
It says it in here? I read it like a month ago, so I could.
So there's affordable housing section in there.
Can we tweak this to potentially put,
Well, let's see if people agree with me or not. I mean, do
I
you
mean,
have the
I'm
document
happy
there?
to
Do you have the
tweak the
document?
letter so that it's not so strongly in favor of the open space. It's just a simple letter of support. I mean, at the end of the day.
Because in
you want
general,
to- you want to
I do
have-
agree with it, yeah.
Yeah, generally speaking, you want to support your open space.
Who is that? Who wrote it? The state or a town?
No, it was a volunteer group, and it was led by the Conservation Commission.
Got it.
And if we have an approved plan, we can then get grant funding to do certain
Yeah.
activities. So it's really important that, and this, just to put some context to it, so the reason I am asking the board for this letter, the Conservation Commission sent the plan to the state for approval. The state came back with comments. One of the comments was, the planning board didn't provide a letter of support. Can we get that?
Do you have the document with you?
I do, yep, I do.
So I think when you look at the cottage overlays, especially because we're preserving the open space and we're just changing the characteristics of the housing that we're allowing within that. So from that perspective, I don't think it's, and we're mandating a certain level of affordability, but we're not.
Again, I mean, it's like a
What I'm
non-binding.
saying is this is going to be all affordable, we're not saying put townhouses here or put, So I think from that perspective, I think we can kind of squeeze our way out of the conflict.
I mean, I'm just saying, I felt like it just wasn't in tune with what we were doing. Again, we're not bound to it, so.
and just because you provide a letter of support doesn't mean that you're gonna agree to every single thing that's written in that document.
I did a lot of reading today. So there is a section, so the good thing about that affordable section is they do talk about how we're nowhere near close to the 10% and that we need to improve it, but they prefer to improve it, not in a condensed. Do you remember where exactly that is, Eric?
I don't remember.
No.
Is it under the development trends or? There's a section about
It's
that.
deep. Sorry.
There was a section in there about economic development. I don't know
Yeah, I
if you picked
saw
up on
that.
that.
I did see that. Boy. Sorry, this thing's so...
Thrilling viewing right now.
I think everybody already tuned out.
Well, I mean, I would say, I think with regard to the grant purpose and meeting with the state is looking for, maybe we just tweak this to take that out, and so, we're in general favor of this, and just, I would say we just delete anything with regard to the affordable housing.
I do think the board should take a vote though to at least submit the letter or something that I have a record of saying,
Yeah.
We approve supporting.
Yeah.
I mean, because I do agree with that, we want to preserve open space and maintain the rural and historical character of Bolton, that's fine.
I mean, I think all of this, except for just getting rid of the joint affordable housing open space projects and just delete that one portion of it in this letter.
Yeah, I think so.
And maybe the sentence, the board is committed to the goals, objectives, and actions outlined, maybe that's a little too strong, maybe we can tweak that.
The board is in support.
I feel like I say support maybe too many times.
Let's get
Well, we
the
don't want to
source
click
out.
anything, we just want to sort,
Does not fervently object.
Takes no exceptions.
I mean, could you take out that joint affordable housing open space project?
Yep, I just already crossed it out. I don't know if you want to say something like, the board will foster the
Work
goals,
towards this.
objectives, and actions outlined in the plan as needed or as requested
Yeah.
or something like
As
that.
much as possible,
Yeah.
something.
To the extent feasible. All the time.
Yeah, I like that.
That's our catch-all.
I just don't want to be like, I just don't want to be in town meeting where we
And then someone
present
say,
and says,
why?
oh, well, you guys just agreed to this open space,
Yeah.
and here it says we don't want
No, that's
this.
a good point. That's a good point.
Then we'll look stupid.
Stupider.
People hate us more than they already do. Yeah.
Why don't I say something like the board will foster the goals, objectives, and actions outlined in the plan. Something about being aligned with your.
Yeah. In general, it was good.
Will
I was-
foster, I can come up with something, but
Yeah.
it's something to the effect that they're aligned with what your goals and objectives
Yeah.
are.
I mean, I kind of cringed a little bit when I was reading it, and that they just kept on talking about acquire, with no real, talk of, how financially that would affect the town, it was just like,
Keeps kids out of the school.
huh?
Keeps kids out of the school.
Well, so, I mean, if you want to get more into that. I just want to say quick, so we did look at numbers, and the students, and I know that might, the students per household in town is 0.61 right now.
Right.
So looking at subdivisions, it is closer to 1, but,
What does that mean? The students per household is 0.6? What do you mean?
In town, the number of school-age children
Yeah.
within an average household is something like, it's arguable, it's about between 0.6 and 0.65.
So that means 60 to 65% of the houses in Bolton.
Each house has 0.65 kids.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And no, it was
On
more
average.
like 30 or 40 had kids between K and 18, I think.
30 and, no.
30%.
I'm talking about across the whole town,
okay.
the average kids per household is 0.61.
0.6. Okay.
Originally, we were saying, is it 2x? So if your average taxes per house is, say, 12,000, and each kid costs 14,000, you're running a huge deficit there.
Even if it's 1X, you're running a deficit.
You're running a deficit.
So it's 0.6.
It's 0.6.
Right.
So what Mark just said isn't necessarily true based on the numbers in town. However, if you start looking, because that includes the Bolton, the Country Manor, and it includes the campground. So if you're just talking about new house, like this house we just talked about, it's probably closer to 1, if maybe not higher. So, which actually calls for the cottage overlay even more to negate out those single-family homes. But my point in saying all that is, it isn't a given that building houses is, a loss.
The numbers were surprising.
Yeah.
They were based on census data.
Yeah.
It was very, very surprising.
Yeah.
So that whole argument of, it's, every single house is gonna cost so much money, which I was making that argument.
Right.
It's not necessarily true.
When was the study?
Especially
done?
It was a census from what, 20?
No, it was this year.
I was gonna say,
Was
this
it that
is just,
It was based off of 2016, I think, the numbers that Tom Hall gave us.
Yes, yeah.
Because the numbers,
That was from last year's school.
yeah,
Attendant, whatever they call it.
so they came up with 0.61 across the town.
Yes, thank you.
Which, and actually, if you think about it, so if you say that each student costs 14,000, and I don't know what the average tax bill is it 12,000, 11,000?
Something like that, yeah.
So really, 0.8 is the 0.8 students per household is the break even.
so once you get above 0.8, now you're in a deficit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're just building a single-family home, which appears to be that's a 1X, based off of, I asked for Northwoods and asked for Century Mill, and that's more average to 1X.
Yeah.
So that is running a deficit.
Yeah.
Whereas across,
Although those aren't typical houses either.
They're typical today.
the typical today,
But they're not gonna be the typical
4,000 square foot houses.
okay tax bill.
Correct.
Well, so a 12K
Yeah,
tax bill is like what, a $750,000 house, I think, right, roughly?
Yeah, 6 to 650.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because we're at 22 now. So anyway, all I'm saying is, it's not a slam dunk in what you
It's
just said.
not a slam dunk.
Yeah.
That was my.
It's a much more nuanced discussion. And it doesn't say that we don't need a cottage overlay. We still need a cottage overlay because of all these single-family homes getting built out.
we need to offset.
We need to offset those
Yeah.
with the cottage overlay.
So we don't want to keep going up. I mean, it's
Right.
great that we're 0.6.
If you keep on building single-family
but
homes, that
it
0.61
would
is,
be-
Well, that was only
yeah.
1 year data. We really need to look at the trend for like the last 5 years to see.
And I think you did say to me, just new homes, single-family homes, what number is that?
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, you could play with the numbers.
It's also, there's a big step in there at some point when we need to put an addition onto the school. Because all those 0.6s have added up.
I mean, I've said this before, I said this in the Board of Selectmen meeting, and I got hammered by the audience, but, I mean, I did research for the sewer district, and 10, 15 years out, the school attendance is, if not staying the same, going down, because they just think that even though the houses are increasing, the average kids per household is going down, People are very selfish and don't have 3 kids, they have 1 or 2, so.
I haven't seen that trend. I thought it
That's what the report is saying.
Huh, yeah. I thought it was quite the opposite, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know many people with over 2 kids, but even still 2 kids is.
Mike's good.
The Century Mill was surprising. I mean, you have a house that size and there's empty nesters living there.
Yeah.
or something.
Right, yeah. I don't really understand it.
By those.
But you
need a couple of studies.
But you do. So that study from 2006 is, so we have over like 5,200 people, was it? I think 1,500 people are 55 and older. So it's like,
Yeah.
Really?
it's like,
Significant portion.
it's a
Yeah.
third,
So
about
there's a lot of misconceptions.
right.
But we need to look at the trends. I mean,
Right.
that was
So-
what
so-
you're
so the
saying.
problem is-
Right.
Well, so now the problem is, so a third of this population, are they about to move out?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then young people move in, so then.
I mean, I'll tell you my area, which, I mean, the majority of the houses in Wilder Road were all built in the late 80s, early 90s, and we've now had 3 of them just go on the market this year, because it's people, their kids are grown, and they're selling them, and they're moving out.
So I think that is.
Who's coming in?
Families with young kids.
So I think Mike is right in looking at the trends, because it was a surprising number of people over 55. So once those people move, and if we're not replacing those, if we're not giving them a place to move within town, if they're if they're just leaving and we're losing them with no kids, their beautiful $12,000 for free, and replacing it with people moving in with
That's an
kids.
interesting way to put it.
Should send my parents a thank you note.
Yeah. We need more 70-years moving into 3,000 square foot
You don't
houses.
need people like me with 3 kids.
We have to advertise to 70-year-olds to move back into town somehow, which the cottage overlay would do it.
Yes.
They're not all willing to move into single-family homes.
All right, so can we, do you want to make a
I think
motion
with-
on this?
I think with the changes, I'd be fine with it.
I'm ready to hear a motion. My job's easy.
I'll make a motion to approve support. Do I need to say the specific letter, or just say support of the open space and recreation plan?
With changes.
With the changes we noted.
Okay, of the open space and recreation plan letter with the changes we noted.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Those 2 dates, that's not November, that's not Thanksgiving or anywhere near it.
Nope.
December's nowhere near Christmas. 11 and 25. Is one of those, when's Columbus Day weekend?
That's a good point.
It's the 9th,
The 9th?
so 11th is 2 days after that.
Yeah, I'm fine with all of these.
I mean, that's a school day, so everybody's gonna be around.
I may or may not be in Louisiana
Work?
on the 11th. Kind of, I
What was
was
that?
elected regional governor of the American Society of Civil Engineers. So I start my, yes.
Governor, do we have to call you governor?
But New Orleans. They have, the AAC has their annual conference, and I'm not sure if I have to go or not.
Once the governor, always the governor.
Yeah, 3-year term, so I gotta fly down to DC in September for orientation, and then we'll go from there.
So regionals, it's in New England region?
It's all of New England, New York, and New Jersey, and there's like 7 governors that make it, so there's like a local, state level, there's the national level, and then there's the regional level, so. Yep, open up to region.
Can I just make a motion to approve the schedule, and then I'll get to Pam?
I make a motion to approve the schedule as noted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Sprague's favorite motion?
Can I say one?
Always. It's not on the agenda now.
Not on the agenda, but maybe just put it on for the next agenda. We need to lock down the cottage overlay and decide if we're gonna go in the special town meeting or not.
Your
Is there
last,
gonna be
and
a
I
special
nixed
number?
this was me, but your last edit, we should all, between now and the next meeting, review that and get you independently, directly, without copying others, any final edits, and then lock it down and bring in that team
Yep,
of
I
folks
had
again.
Michelle Tuck review it, since she's the chair of the DRB, so she had some comments. I did send it to Brandon Ducharme because he wanted to look at it again. He had one, I shouldn't talk about this now, it's not on the
Yeah.
agenda, but I'll give you an update.
Yeah.
But give us one chance, I'm probably not gonna have anything.
Yes, I'll send it.
But we
yeah.
always talk about it, and then, at least for me, a lot of it slips my mind.
Sure.
But if the special,
So I'm gonna give you one last, and anybody here can too.
if the special town meeting's in November,
I think that might be too soon, to be honest with you, because I think we need to hold like some type of forum. so
Like a
people
public
can come,
meeting.
ask
well,
questions,
that's
be
exactly what I was
presented.
saying. We were talking about the form you were talking about,
Okay.
but then we have to have an official special, hearing, right?
Right, yeah,
We have to have an official hearing,
yeah,
and that all has to be done in time to go out for a warrant.
exactly, yeah.
Well, so I was thinking, like, if we do it this next meeting, we might have a chance, you
Okay.
know? Like, lock up what you were saying, the next meeting, and then, I don't know, we have to schedule, I mean, it's getting really close. I don't know when the date is for the town meeting, do you
I
know?
don't know yet, I don't know yet.
So what would we need, sorry, one more hearing to invite the public in and
Well,
talk to
you
them?
need a hearing for,
Well, we need the official hearing, but you're also
For a
talking
lot.
about.
but I had just been in like a,
Yeah.
Public
it's
information,
more
yeah.
like informal sort of information
But then-
session where that we can just present it to the town so they can ask, because people, once you get to town.
Well, I was gonna say,
meeting,
then the question is, do we want to have it in this special town meeting, or do we wanna have it in the more formal annual town meeting, so it doesn't appear that we're like sliding
Forcing it.
something?
I
Yeah.
would be worried.
I like the
about
latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any huge rush
Because,
now.
because now there's not a rush.
Yeah.
They're not gonna use it anyway. The initial thought of rushing it in was, because it might actually be
Between
used.
now and the next meeting, we get final comments to you. You then incorporate that into one and send it to folks like Doug Story, Brandon Ducharme,
I'll send it
et
to the
cetera.
original group.
And offline, without a meeting, without our wasting
Sure.
time, just get their input.
Yeah, that would be
Then
good.
we've got to
Yeah,
document with
yeah.
their input, then we do the hearing, then we do annual town meeting. I think that's.
Well,
Yeah, I think that
so,
makes sense.
so we have like a few months to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
But we may as well do, well, it's fresh on our mind.
because,
Do our
I mean,
deal right
we
now.
usually do the hearings in when, like, February?
February.
I mean, so that's actually not
Yeah.
that far away.
No, it's not.
It comes fast.
Right.
And for something else, we may want to schedule
An informal meeting.
Of like
a
the,
full meeting to
Yeah.
kind of present.
invite the
it.
town to come,
Yeah.
yeah.
And maybe it's something that we publish in the Bolton Independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah,
So people
Oh,
can
yeah.
right,
read it. So
yeah,
that'll reach everybody.
yeah, no, that, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we're saying we're not gonna rush for the special town meeting, so,
Yeah.
That would be right.
so
yeah.
then, you know, what I was saying doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Okay, now,
Now, I'm adjourned.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?